Comrade? Yes, sir. Affirmative.
Repairing. Building. Unit repaired.
Reporting.
Repairing.
Acknowledged.
Unit repaired. Repairing. Unit repaired. Training. Unit ready. Training.
Reporting. Agreed.
Unit ready. Training.
Affirmative.
Unit ready.
Yes, sir. Affirmative. Awaiting orders. Affirmative. Reporting. Affirmative. Yes, sir. Awaiting orders. Affirmative.
Repairing.
Ready and waiting. Very well. Very well. Yes, sir. Very well. Very well. Agreed.
Our base is under attack. Preparing.
Comrade, acknowledged.
Repairing. Silos needed. Unit repaired. Repairing.
Yes, sir. Acknowledged.
Unit
Comrade,
repaired.
acknowledged. Waiting
Repairing.
affirmative.
Silos needed. Unit repaired. Building. Silos
Comrade.
needed.
Acknowledged. Yes, sir. Acknowledged.
Repairing. Unit repaired.
Yes, sir.
Repairing.
Reporting. Acknowledged.
Unit ready. Building. Unit repaired. Repairing.
Comrade, acknowledged.
Unit repaired.
Yes, sir. Acknowledged.
Unit ready. Building. Unit repaired. Repairing.
Reporting. Affirmative.
Unit repaired.
Ready and waiting. Agreed. Very well.
Repairing.
Affirmative.
Unit ready. Building. Unit
Awaiting
repaired.
orders. Acknowledged. Waiting order. Acknowledged.
Unit
Yes, sir.
repaired.
Affirmative.
Repairing.
Reporting orders. Yes, sir. At once.
Unit ready. Building. Unit repaired. Repairing. Unit repaired.
Yes, sir. Ready and waiting. At once. Report. Acknowledged.
Unit ready.
Yes, sir. Affirmative. 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 Acknowledged.
Our base is
Acknowledged.
under attack.
Acknowledged. Acknowledged. Acknowledged.
Silos needed.
Affirmative. Acknowledged.
Silos needed.
Affirmative. Acknowledged. Affirmative. 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 Acknowledged. Acknowledged. Affirmative. Affirmative. Comrade, affirmative. 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 Acknowledged. Acknowledged.
Silos needed.
Affirmative.
Yes, sir. Acknowledge. Acknowledge. Yes, sir. Acknowledge.
Preparing.
Reporting. Acknowledged.
Yes, sir. Vehicle reporting. Affirmative. Reporting. Affirmative.
Yes, sir. Affirmative.
Yes, sir. Acknowledge. Affirmative. Acknowledge. Acknowledge. Affirmative. Affirmative. Acknowledge. Acknowledge. Affirmative. Affirmative. Acknowledge. Acknowledge. Affirmative. 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 Acknowledge. Affirmative. Acknowledge. Acknowledge. Affirmative.
Silos needed.
Acknowledge. Affirmative. Acknowledge. Affirmative. Acknowledge. Affirmative. 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 Acknowledge. 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 Affirmative. Acknowledge.
Waiting order. Acknowledged. Yes, sir. Acknowledged.
Yes, sir. Acknowledge. Affirmative. Acknowledge. Affirmative. Acknowledge. 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 Affirmative. 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 Acknowledge. Acknowledge. Affirmative. 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 Acknowledge. Affirmative. 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 Affirmative.
Unit lost.
Acknowledge. Acknowledge. Affirmative. Acknowledge. Affirmative. Acknowledge. Affirmative. Affirmative. Acknowledge. Affirmative. 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 Acknowledge. Affirmative. Affirmative.
Unit
Acknowledge.
lost.
Acknowledge. Acknowledge. Affirmative. Acknowledge. 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 Affirmative. Affirmative. Acknowledge. Acknowledge. Affirmative. Affirmative. Acknowledge. 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 Affirmative. Affirmative. Acknowledge. Acknowledge. Affirmative. Acknowledge. Affirmative. Acknowledge. 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 Affirmative. Acknowledge. Acknowledge. Affirmative. 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 Acknowledge. 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 Affirmative. Acknowledge. Acknowledge. Affirmative. Affirmative. Acknowledge. Acknowledge. Affirmative. Acknowledge. 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 Affirmative. Affirmative. Acknowledge. Acknowledge. Affirmative. Acknowledge. Affirmative.
Acknowledged.
Unit lost.
Acknowledge. Affirmative. 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 Acknowledge. Acknowledge. Affirmative. 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 Acknowledge. Affirmative.
Reporting.
Affirmative.
Unit lost.
Acknowledge. Affirmative. Acknowledge. Acknowledge. Affirmative. 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 Acknowledged. Affirmative. Affirmative. Acknowledged. Affirmative. Affirmative. Acknowledged. 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 Affirmative. Acknowledged.
Comrade, affirmative. Affirmative. Acknowledged. Affirmative. Acknowledged. 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 Affirmative. Affirmative. Acknowledged. Acknowledged. Affirmative. Acknowledged. Affirmative. Acknowledged. Affirmative. Acknowledged. Affirmative. Acknowledged. Acknowledged. Affirmative.
Unit prepared.
Affirmative.
Preparing.
Acknowledged. Acknowledged. Affirmative. Affirmative. Acknowledged. Affirmative. Affirmative.
Unit prepared.
Affirmative. Affirmative. Acknowledged. Affirmative.
Unit prepared.
Affirmative. Affirmative. Acknowledged. Affirmative. Acknowledged. Acknowledged. Affirmative. Acknowledged. Acknowledged.
Preparing.
Acknowledged. Affirmative. Affirmative.
Unit prepared. Preparing.
Acknowledged. Acknowledged. Affirmative. 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 Acknowledged.
Unit prepared. Preparing. Unit
Acknowledged.
prepared. Preparing.
Acknowledged.
Unit prepared. Preparing.
Acknowledged. Affirmative.
Unit prepared. Preparing.
Affirmative. Acknowledged.
Unit prepared. Preparing.
Acknowledged. 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 Affirmative. Acknowledged. Affirmative. Acknowledged.
Unit prepared.
Affirmative. Affirmative.
Mission accomplished.